How you doing, YouTube? I'm doing this video by viewer request. He wants to know how I do all my knots. I'm gonna do it in a sequence of how I would string up a tennis racket. So I'm just gonna demonstrate tying off this side. Alright, so I would stick it through. You can stick it through the top as well, depending on how tight your starting clamp is. Because if you were to use this other type of starting clamp, which I initially had, I realized that by inserting my string above these rings does not give enough pressure. It can slip. So I always tell people to insert it like below these two rings. So I haven't tried it on this one. I always insert it below the two rings to give it more tightness. But for experimental purpose, I'll just insert it like kind of right at the ring or slightly above it. See if I get enough grip in that position with this clamp. So as normal, I'll do under. That gives you, from my demonstration that I demonstrated, by going under, it gives you a couple more, in addition to the 10% or 10 or 15% tie off tension I have set in my tie off function. Ooh. You see, that slipped out. So that just proves that inserting it up above too high does not give you enough tension. Therefore, I'm gonna insert it lower, like so. See, below instead of above the rings. You get a tighter grip. Going under the Diablo, and then tie off tension function engaged. Cool. So I'm tying it off. I'm pulling it at like 55 pounds. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I normally tie it with Parnell knot. As you can see, put the string through. Man, that's really tight. I'm going to expand the hole a little bit with my owl. So, depending on the size of these grommets, this one is flared towards the inside of the racket. Normally, the original ones, they come flared. Obviously, with this Diablo as well as most of the Onyx rackets, they have certain grommet holes that are flared out as an indication to the stringers that they can be used as possible tie-off holes, because they tend to be bigger holes compared to other smaller ones. So with these ones, I tend to use a bigger knot, which is the Parnell knot, and I'll demonstrate it. Okay, pretty much what I do is, if the string comes through on the left side of your main string, then I will go over the main string, under the main string, come back through the loop, over, under, and back through the loop. All right, that's the first loop, but don't cinch it tight. Leave a a little bit of hole for the next loop or next to go through. So you see how this tag end ended up on the left side of the string again. So then you will go loop it through the opposite side just like before, and come back through that the opening of the initial hole that you left. All right, let me flip it over so maybe it's easier to see. See how I go from the original position over the main string, under, over and under and around the bottom, and then stick it through that little loop that you left. Okay, and then what you end up with is a small loop like this, and then use your starting clamp, grab the side of the loop that's closer to you, which is this side, and start pulling it. That'll cinch up that first loop that you created, the very loop that the string went through. Cinch it up, and then move it outwards. Make sure any slack on the outside of the frame is pulled out towards you, away from you, toward you. Okay, and then pull this one through. Now the way I do it with the Parnell knot is that I don't like to leave this tag in like directly in the middle of the circular grommet. I like to to finish up, I like to either pull it toward the side or pull it toward that side. I will pull it toward that side, apply tension like that, being careful not to put too much tension as to stress the main string. You want to hold tension in your arms with my right hand. You see how I'm also holding on to the side support. This is how I'm able to maintain tension on this piece of string before releasing my clamp. All right, this way you'll ensure that as you're releasing your clamp, the string is gonna want to pull out toward the opposite direction, and you're holding tension here. So by doing that, it makes your knot tighter, because as you're releasing the clamp, the string is pulling out this way, and then you're holding tension in the opposite direction, making the whole knot cinch out tighter from both directions. That's the reason to hold the clamp while you're doing that. I mean, not hold the clamp, hold the tension here while releasing the clamp. And then you see how by pulling it more toward the side, I'm able to cut that and press it more to the side, instead of, I usually like to press it more to the side so it won't like stick up in the middle of that grommet. It's a potential poke point. And I usually press it in with my cutter. Perhaps I'll use this side to demonstrate my Wilson Pro knot. Assuming this grommet hole is a little smaller, there's no concern of the knot slipping through. For a big grommet hole like this one, you use a Wilson Pro knot on it and a soft string. That's just a recipe for a smaller knot to slip through. So on this side, let me try and demonstrate Wilson Pro knot for you using the bridge. Or jumper, whatever you call it. Okay. Stick the end through. Like So I usually try, you see how there's a loop here on the initial pull with my plier. Whether with my plier or with my finger, I usually try to pull that slack out as much as possible, and then finish up pulling with my starting clamp later. All right, the way I do a Wilson Pro knot, keep in mind that usually you want to have at least twice amount of length, twice or three times amount of length, so it's easier to work with. But suppose this is the real situation, you gotta work with what you have. Now, the string sits on the right side of the anchor string that you're tying off to. It's the opposite of what we just saw on the opposite side. But the concept is the same. You will go above the anchor string, under and around to create the first loop, just like the Parnell knot. This string is too short for my finger to grab, so I'm using the help of a plier. Okay, and you don't want to close off that first loop. You see, just leave a small opening. Matter of fact, I would leave the opening even bigger compared to the Parnell knot. With the Parnell knot, you would go ahead and loop it around one more time and stick it through from the loop. However, with the Wilson Pro knot, you don't do that. Once you get through the first loop like this, you simply take your tag end, double it back behind the loop from the same side. Instead of going over to the opposite side, you just push it behind the loop on the same side of the anchor string, and then bring it back through the loop like this. And same thing, you wanna leave this loop over here for your starting clamp. Ideally, you want to leave this loop larger, so you can go ahead and grab the end towards you with the starting clamp to cinch it tighter. See, like the way it is right now, I can barely grab it because this loop is not big enough. Alright, so perhaps it's easier to grab it with my small plier. Alright, away from you, towards you, away from you, towards you. Once that's cinched up, pull the open end up. Like this. Alright, and then same thing, hold tension here before releasing the clamp on the opposite side. So yeah, I created a tough situation for myself because this is the amount of string that I cut out. That's barely 2 inches. So it's too short of a length of a string to work with. Usually you want at least 3 times that, 3 times the length. So there's the Wilson Pro knot. If I get a chance to demonstrate the Pro knot, I'll do it again better. Okay, when I go and start off on the cross strings, there's different knots you could do as well. In order to save the most amount of strings, you will utilize what is called a starting knot, which enables you to be able to pull your first string right from a starting knot. Alright, to save the most amount of strings, you would go in here. I only leave about this much out, 3 or 4 inches. And you could do you could use either Parnell knot if you're wanting to do the whole racket. All 4 knots with Parnell knot. That's the most consistent. So right here you see the first loop, the second loop through, as we already demonstrated before. And pull the loop towards you pull it while use your other hand and pull it from the other side as well. Because without the left hand and you go ahead and you pull the loop, this whole loop is gonna slide out like that. See? So use the opposite hand to maintain tension in order to finish the knot. Like that. Okay, and then from there you can proceed to pull your first string like so. Now some people are adamant against pulling tension on a knot because their concern is that there's a danger of you pulling the knot through the grommet and end up damaging the grommet. But what I usually do to combat that is I will have this clamp sitting over here, right under here, being positioned and ready. Alright, and as I pull tension on it, I'll quickly clamp it off as soon as it reaches tension. Say I'm pulling 50 pounds. Alright, as soon as it beeps, tie it off right away before it has too much time for the constant pull to keep pulling, and that puts extra unnecessary extra stress on the grommet hole. You see, so long as I clamp it off just in time, there's no damage to the grommet. If you don't want to do it that way, you could do it like this. Put this machine clamp here, so you will end up protecting your knot and the grommet. But doing it this way, you won't be able to pull tension on this slack. You see, that's that slack of a string that's hanging out, and therefore you will want to add like at least 15 to 20% of tie-off knot tension. Okay, I will go under, tie out below this way. With that clamp in place, you can pull on this side, you know, all you want. Doesn't affect this loop. That's the reason why you add the extra tension to compensate that. And you clamp it off here. Release the clamp. Now with that extra tension in there, more than 50 pounds, so this clamp is already clamped off, so you can release this clamp actually. That's one type of starting knot. When I first started stringing, well, the advantage with doing the starting knot is you only end up wasting barely 3 inches of string versus using the starting clamp, you know, pulling it from this end, and then you end up using, you know, a foot or two more foot of string. So that's using the Parnell knot as a starting knot. You could do the Wilson Pro knot as a starting knot as well. And I'll demonstrate that. Since I did a lousy job demonstrating the Wilson Pro knot before. Okay, here we go. Give yourself about this much to work with, 4 or 5 inches. Alright, loop above to the opposite side, under and through to form the first loop. And then simply double back. Matter of fact, before I pull it tight, you have this first loop nice and loose right here, holding my left hand. So simply take this tag end, and on the same side of the hanger string, double it back and stick it through from back to front like this. Double it back like this, and then you can tighten up that loop going this way. See now how you have a loose loop now? Same thing, hold the tension with your opposite hand. Pull this side tight towards you, and then pull the tag tight. So yeah, that's why the Wilson Pro knot is a smaller knot, because it's only like it's not two complete loops around the anchor string. It's only like one loop around the anchor string, and then the second loop is actually around the same green string itself, and it sits above, loops around only above the black string, above the anchor string, instead of going around the anchor string a second time. That's why you see the knot is smaller. Now, when I first started stringing, the starting knot that I would use is similar to a fishing knot. Give yourself about that much. Basically, over and around and down. Instead of coming back through the loop like this, you don't come back. Stay like that. And just hold the loop in your opposite hand, and then do the same thing while maintaining the first loop. Basically, you're creating the second loop like parallel to each other, just stacking one above another like this, like so. Now you got two loops. They're, you know, these two loops, they're not crisscrossing each other. And what you do, see if trying to show it clearly to you. See, first loop, second loop, like this. See the two loops? Now what you do next is take the tag end, stick the tag end in. Basically, you want to take the tag end, stick it through from the end towards you, stick it through, and then pull it away from you. Ooh. See how I stuck it through? I haven't done this for a while, so I'm kind of sluggish at it. Pull it through like this. Alright, while pulling that end, same thing. Maintain tension and pull it from the opposite end as well. Just cinch up that knot. Like so. Now, the advantage of this type of start knot is that you end up getting your tag end. Your tag end will end up parallel to your anchor string. What some people will do is they will just not pull it as hard from this end, and rather they will just use the machine to pull. Same thing, I would caution pulling too hard on the knot. Just have your clamp be close by and be ready. Clamp that off. Okay. And actually, I wanted to add a couple 10-15% more tension. So I'm gonna do that again. So with that tension, the knot will cinch itself. So to start that fishing knot, even though it's two loops and it's harder for the fingers to handle, the end result actually looks pretty good in my mind. Because if you were to cut it off like this, just be careful not to damage the anchor string. I always cut it in like an angle. Cut it off like this, you'll find that the tack end will just lay parallel to the direction of the main string. You know, it stays in the same plane. It doesn't stick up, so it won't poke anybody in their clothes or in the skin. So I've demonstrated 3 different types of starting knot. Those will save you the most amount of strings because you're only wasting like a few inches worth of strings. Versus the most common method involving the use of a starting clamp, which I'll demonstrate for you right now. Okay, what people will do is leave about long enough of a string in order to reach the tension pullers properly. You know, if it's shorter than halfway through the puller, then it might slip. Make sure that it will reach the end of the puller in order to have the most effective pull. Okay. Leave it about that much or more. If you're being generous, you're not worried about wasting strings. And the next thing you do is put your starting clamp here. For people that are concerned about protecting your head guard, if that's a concern, then use some kind of offset cushion device like this. Put that on there before applying the starting clamp like this. And then you'll go ahead and pull tension on the first string. Like so. And then when you're doing it this way, I will usually finish pulling the first 3 strings before coming back to tie off my knot for knot for my cross. So I will pre-weave the 5th string before I pull the 4th string. As usual, always pre-weave one ahead. At this point, I'm ready to pull the 4th string. However, before I do that, I want to re-pull the 1st string, even though we already pulled it the first time. So we're doing it this way. You end up pulling the 1st string twice. And I want to apply the tie-off knot tension as well.
At the end of my recording, I realized that
Keep in mind that
phone had ran out of battery, so I didn't actually finish recording the whole
tying off process using the starting clamp. So what I actually do is I include an example
of me doing that at the end of the video, and I also include a link to that video in my description, so please refer to that on how to tie it off using the starting clamp. And the knot can either be a Parnell knot or a Wilson Pro knot or double hitch knot. It's entirely up to you. So thank you very much for watching.
and I shall see you next time. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Any questions